And there's a practice over this last year. It's gotten real important to me. I did it this morning. It was actually created by a guy named Martin Seligman, who again is not a believer, but it's become an important form of prayer for me, and it actually relates a ton to a little phrase somebody was mentioning, I think yesterday, set your mind on things above. Now, as a practical matter, how do you do that? And what does your mind look like when it's not set on things above? Well, for me, if my mind is not set on things above, the single most common dynamic that leads my mind away is worry. And it's quite amazing to me, although I don't think of myself as a worrier, it's quite amazing to me how quickly thoughts occur in my mind that just can drag me down in that way. So a guy named Martin Seligman, other folks that work in cognitive psychology have worked with this kind of thing, and it's real simple. A lot of you will know this, but there's a little model that's A, B, C, D, and E. And you take time to walk through each one of these steps with a troubling thought. So if you have a worrisome thought, what do you do with that? And A is the antecedent, and that is the circumstance that might trigger worry. For example, we have a vote coming up at our church, and it's around government stuff. I was telling you something about this, and I had gotten an email yesterday that was critical of me. Anybody here ever get criticized in your church? Only me. Well, anyway, I had gotten that, and then I find I can just brood over that. And again, that becomes habitual, so I don't even notice it. So A in antecedent is I just write down, I got this critical email. And then B, I write down what are the beliefs that I have that cause this circumstance to be troubling to me. And I'll actually have to spend some time thinking about this, is naming what's actually going on in my mind. And there'll be things like, and again, they're often quite goofy beliefs. It's just what goes on in my mind. I'm a pastor. I'm giving my life to God. Nobody should criticize me. Everybody should just appreciate what I'm doing. Yeah, can I have an amen? Yeah, that's not actually rational. I didn't mean to promote that thought. It's actually an illusory belief. Another one is, if somebody really dislikes me, I think I dislike them back. You know, when it comes to forming friendships, the number one dynamic is proximity. The second most important dynamic is, do you think they like you? And if you think they like you, you're likely to like them back. And if you think they don't, you won't like them back. And then, just all the beliefs that are connected with that. I can't be happy as long as there's somebody who dislikes me. And if this person dislikes me, probably lots of other people do. And then I'm probably a failure. And then probably everybody's going to kind of see that. I'm going to be on a downhill trajectory. And these beliefs, at least for me, are often quite irrational. But to actually practice the discipline of putting them on paper where I see them, so that I don't allow them to just churn on and on and on, is terribly important. Okay, so I actually name what the beliefs are. And it's kind of an interesting thing. When I put my finger on it, even if it's pretty irrational, just writing it down is enormously helpful, and it produces a little surge of energy inside me. It's like, yeah, I see that. And then, C is for consequences. And so then I'll write down, what are the consequences in my inner life of these beliefs? What are the consequences? I feel sad. I feel discouraged. I feel unwanted or rejected. I feel a loss of energy. I feel like giving up. Okay, so write down those consequences. And then D stands for dispute those beliefs. And so this simply involves beginning to think about this circumstance from a kingdom perspective. And very often I'll just start with super rock solid stuff like, God still loves me. And God will love me even if I mess up. And therefore, I want to be the kind of person that can receive criticism and not be deflated by it. And this person may be critical of this thing, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they don't like me. And even if they don't like me, do I want to become the kind of person that's defeated and discouraged if somebody doesn't like them? No, I don't want that. This is kind of an odd thing, but I'll very often find on the dispute thing, something that happened to me in a real deep time is I was going through a really difficult time, and I pictured a movie in my mind. And I thought, now, if I was watching a movie and there was a character that was me, how would I want them to live? And I thought I would want them to be, open to pain in a painful situation and to be aware of it, but to be able to live with joy and openness and receive criticism where it was merited and have firmness of conviction. And I was on a track where I was getting discouraged and defeated, and I thought, I want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy. And very often for me now, when I'm walking through the dispute thing, it'll be that I'll think about this situation and I think, okay, if this was a story in a book or a movie and somebody was going through what I'm going through, how would they behave if I were to admire them? And then on the dispute thing, I want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy. And then E stands for energize. What are the ways that I am energized as I am disputing these faulty beliefs? And I'll find I feel more motivated. I feel more encouraged. I feel called to be my true self. I feel less likely to give up. And for almost the last year, I have been doing this very often, multiple times a day. And it really it's almost like what doing physical exercises do for your body. Like if you do push-ups or something, you'll feel the difference. It's like that. It's like it's producing new muscles in my mind. And I'll find myself thinking now, if I start to feel down about something, dragged down about something, I'll catch myself and say, I don't have to live in that. And I'll catch those thoughts that could other just spiral me and say, nope, there's actually an alternative. I can go through this little exercise. Now for me, this has become a tremendously important act of what Dallas would call mental hygiene. And when you think about concretely, practically, how do you set your mind on things above? This is hugely helpful to me in setting my mind on things above. Because it's training my mind by the time I get to here to remember, no, those thoughts that defeat or discourage me, the without God thoughts, those are a mindset on things below. And again, Paul's language is so important. What is it? How do you set your mind? And so, again, this may not be helpful at all, but I just thought I'd let you know this one has been hugely helpful to me, is being helpful to me right now a ton around setting my mind on things above. And it might be helpful to you, might not, but if not, just figuring out how do you set your mind on things above. Because that's not just vague or abstract or ethereal. It requires a way. And so those are all part of kind of systems that I need in place to be able to abound and abide.